to not tap into your potential as a human being is really a life wasted.
Welcome to Insights into Success. We're with your host Paul Dodds. We hope to educate, inspire and motivate you to achieve your own personal success. We talk to guests from all around the world from a variety of walks of life to hear the realities of their own journey to success. What challenges have they faced? How have they coped with failure? And what have been the keys or will be the keys to their own success? In our Read to Succeed interviews, we talk books that have inspired our guests, and for some, they share their secrets to marketing success. Join us as we give you insights into success. Well, welcome to Insights into Success, where today a special guest is Bersabeh Ray. So thank you, Bersabeh, for agreeing to be on the show today. And I was wondering if you might be able to start off by telling us a little bit about what you actually do and what your mission in life currently is.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Paul. I'm happy to be here. What I do, so the type of business that we have is helping individuals become independent thinkers, and we help them heal from their traumas. So the individuals that we have come to us are most often than not, they've already achieved a certain amount of success in their life financially, and yet they find there's still an emptiness inside. They still feel this need for something fulfilling, which money happens to not be that in the end. Even we work with millionaires and multimillionaires and billionaires and so forth. There's always this search for meaning which money does not meet. That's one of the things that we do, and we do have individuals that come to us that have experienced severe trauma in their past, in their early life. And I
Yeah.
do intuitive consulting, which is dealing with that. We go in and we see where the problem occurred, what is it that's holding them back, and that they're not able to go after the things they want to go after in life. Sometimes some people come in and say, I really want to do this or start a business, for example, and yet I can't get myself to do it, and I don't know why. I just have this
Yeah.
block, this barrier that just keeps holding me back. So then we go in and see, okay, what has occurred throughout your life, and why do you have the behaviors that you have now that's stopping you from achieving what you're set out to do? So it's intense work, it's personal work, and it takes a courageous individual, I'll say that, to
Yeah.
want to dig into, okay, maybe these things that happened to me in my childhood did actually make a negative impact in my life, and maybe these are things I do need to look at and solve so that I'm able to move forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does. And I think I'd like you, if you could, just to share a little bit about your own experience, because I'm listening to you and what you're saying, and the thing that keeps coming back to me is you're perfectly qualified to do this through your own experiences. So I'm just wondering if you would be able to share with me a little bit about your early life back in Iran, and
Sure.
maybe how that's helped to formulate where you've come to now.
Sure. I was born in Iran, and I was born at a time where Iran was at war with Iraq. So the so-called revolution had taken place already. And so the whole regime in Iran had changed because of that. And during the war between Iran and Iraq, uh, in my earliest childhood memories are bombs dropping in our neighborhood. I mean, imagine like if you go out in your street, count 5 houses down, and imagine if a bomb dropped. Those
Wow.
were, yeah, my
Yeah.
what I recall. And besides that, because of our religious background, we're Baha'is. So the Islamic Republic gave a very hard time to the Baha'is, to the Jewish people, and the Christian people. And the military kicked down our door, took my dad, ripped him out, and threw him in prison. And going to prison there means that there's no coming back. We don't know. It was like a death sentence.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, he was able to make it out. And through
Wow.
that period, the, military forces that were in the streets, would rape women, throw people in prison, and my mom was one of them. There was, sexual assault, which I ended up being a victim of that too. Um, and because of the circumstances there, and besides the fact that women can't really have a life there, meaning you can't go to school, you can't get an education, you can't own a business, and this goes for even if you're of a different faith, especially as a Baha'i and Jewish people, they gave a harder time to where you couldn't own a business, you couldn't get a good education, it just wasn't possible. So
Yeah.
my parents had decided that this is no living condition. We need to leave the country. And how we left is that we couldn't just get up and leave. We had to escape. So that meant we had to find someone who would literally smuggle us out of the country. And how that worked was you get a driver and you have different stop points, and they drove in the dead of night in the middle of the desert at the risk of being caught, uh,
Wow.
and we made it through, to Pakistan where we, went for, what is it called? Asylum, so that
Right.
we're be able to stay there, and that's what we did, and thankfully, we did get through, and we made it there, and we had to stay in Pakistan for a couple of years to get our, papers and visa and all that stuff to be able to come to the States.
Yeah.
Now coming to the States, you can imagine, my parents were probably, mid-40s or something, 3 kids, and they have to start all over, and you got new language, and having to deal with a completely different culture, which is not the same at all. Yeah,
No, gotta be different.
yeah, absolutely different, and, so parents, being here, parents both had to go to work. So no one was home. The kids, we had to basically raise ourselves, and the television raised you. That's how it went with my generation.
Yeah.
So parents were not there. There was no one watching us. So I got into bad behaviors of hanging out with the wrong people, the wrong crowd. I started doing drugs at a very early age and started smoking at a very early age. Was around a lot of gang members, and this was because the environment that we were able to live in because of the financial means,
Yeah.
were not the best conditions, of,
Yeah.
individuals living there. So I've gone through as far as my own personal takeaway from all that is I've had the traumatic, violence of, traumas. I've had the, sexual assault at a super early age, and the drug abuse and, physical abuse and verbal I've had it all. In my previous, when I later on in the years previous marriage, got into a marriage that was physically abusive and so forth. And that, last marriage pushed me to a point to go, "Okay, what is it that I'm doing here that I keep, finding myself in these situations, and why would I marry someone who, is this way? And the
Yeah.
things that I've done, why do I keep doing them? I've never liked the fact that I smoked cigarettes or did drugs, I didn't like it, and the, the reason why I was doing them was because there's so much pain inside that what we tend to do is look for something that suppresses that or holds it off or put some kind of Band-Aid on it so we could
Quick
just cope.
fix.
Yeah. Try to
Yeah.
just be able to cope with, regular, daily, normal life. And, so it pushed me to the thing that drove me out and to keep going and not accept uh, my circumstances and how the outcomes of my life was at that point was that I really wanted to experience a life that was somewhat normal. And what I mean by normal is when you're an addict, you dream of the moment where you could just sit on the couch, have and be able to be just okay without anything. That's
Yeah.
like it's like a dream because if w when yeah, from age 12 on, that's all I
Wow.
do. Yeah, so you think it's kinda like you feel broken, first of all. You don't know normal. You don't know what normal feels like, and that was my drive. Was that could it be possible for me to be able to one day just experience a normal life, having, um you can't say you could really erase your past, but not be emotionally attached to those and be able to start over, from ground
Yeah.
zero. So that's when I met my current husband, James Arthur Ray, which you spoke with.
Yeah.
And I started going after and cleaning up and dealing with everything that I was suppressing. And how I did that was the biggest one for me was to be able to stop smoking, and that was horrendous. But this this time around when I did it, I said, "Okay, I'm not gonna take anything else, and whatever comes up, I'm just gonna deal with it." And I will say it is the hardest work, someone can do, is to break an addiction and go after all the, you could say the demons that are hiding in the basement type of deal.
Yeah.
And really go after it and clean the stuff up. So I started doing this myself, and I saw that this is working. And I'm a very practical person. So for me to do things, because you have to do it on an emotional level, and it's also related on an energetic, which is spiritual level. And being so practical, I didn't quite believe in the processes. I never went after anything that's you could say personal development, so forth. And yet this was different. This was I've done a few the cleanup process work where I felt the physiological change, which startled me. And yet I thought, holy smokes, this is working. And it's been, 7 years since I've been absolutely sober, which
Yeah.
is I wouldn't even think, if 7 years ago, which is not that long ago, if you woulda asked me, I would be where I am today, and who I am today, I would say it wasn't even in my, world model to even think about such a thing. It didn't even
Yeah.
exist, out of my reach completely.
I think there's a couple of things there I want to touch on. One is I think we all want everything to happen very quickly.
Mhm.
And I think I've heard it said before that we often overestimate what we can do in a year, but we underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I kind of think of that with what you just said, that to go from where you were to now is significant change. But it's all about incremental. It's all about small
Yeah.
steps, isn't it? And building on it and not getting hung up about it all has to happen tomorrow. But just if you keep doing a little bit each day, that actually over time you can actually achieve a significant amount, and always trying to keep yourself patient and on that journey rather than losing hope quickly because it hasn't happened quickly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this process that I talk about, it was literally day by day. You take it
Yeah.
one day at a time. And the key to what you're saying is to be consistent. Every single day, you got to keep at it, and you keep at it, and you just keep doing it. And little by little, you start seeing it, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And the key is that you don't give up. You just keep doing it. And, a lot of times I feel like individuals where they fail or they don't make it is because they have that expectation. I've been doing this for 30 days and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And that's just unrealistic. That goes you could apply that to any, endeavor we take in our life, which even to business. You literally have to take it day by day, and you have to be consistent. You have to do the work, you have to do the hard work. And, just keep going at it. You can't take a day off.
No, no. So with you, like you've been through an incredibly painful, long journey. I guess two questions. One is, are you at the point now where you can kind of detach yourself from what happened in the past and can draw a lot of lessons from it, a lot of learnings and a lot of positivity from it? Or are you not quite there yet? Because I mean, you've been through so much,
Mhm.
and as much as it would have been incredibly difficult, I'm sure, you as a person, if you can get beyond it all, disconnect from it and look back, incredible amount that you would have learnt and able to then share with others.
Sure. I would say, um, I lost my train of thought. It's okay, so there's a couple of things here. What happens is that, w our experiences, the reason why they can, or traumas, I'll call them experiences, hold us back is that we're emotionally attached to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you what that's the type of work we do, is we remove the emotional attachment. And what happens is when you remove the emotional attachment is that, let's say something occurs that would have triggered you before, because of that very incident, no longer does that. So now
Yeah,
you don't have that boiling pot effect. So then that just becomes, turns your trauma becomes an experience where you can see, and well, you can see what one of the reasons why did it happen. What did I gain from that? And what has it contributed to the person that I've become?
yeah,
And the first step is, I think, for anyone, is to take full responsibility for your life, even all the wrong that's happened to you. You can never heal yourself from a victim mentality, because the moment you go
very
into
true.
victim mentality is you're giving your power over, saying I can't do anything.
Yeah,
When in fact, because at some point these things happen to us, and then at a certain age in our adulthood or even our teenage years, we make those happen to ourselves because we keep choosing to do so. That's the cycle that we have to break. So to say that I've completely reached and I'm totally whole and healed, I would say perhaps 80%.
right.
And I say that because it took it was a very painful process. Um, and it's not just, let me add this in there too, because then you have to clean up your diet, which I did. You got to look at what you're eating, because those things contribute to how we feel too. Then exercising. So you have to completely transform your body as well. And then it's, what are you feeding your mind? The things we don't watch, movies or any kind of shows or anything like that. Even music, I love music and all kinds of music. And
Yeah,
even that I had to clean up, because all these things affect how we behave and act. And it was all done little by little. I put away the smoking and any kind of drugs or alcohol, put that aside, then I picked up working out. Then it was, do that consistently for at least, gosh, I would say that took a better part of, I'm going to say, 5, 6 years for me to feel normal, not to have an edge anymore, not to be triggered, to be relaxed and calm inside, to have a peace inside.
yeah.
And it's the consistent work again. And all these other
And that
things. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna excuse me, I was just gonna say, that sounds like a long time, but when you put in the context of your life and what you've been through before that, it actually isn't, and I think that's another thing that we need to put into perspective. Like, someone listening might go, "Oh gosh, that's an awful long time," real commitment, but, you went through so much for a whole lot longer. So,
Yeah.
putting it in that context, it's actually not that long to achieve what you've achieved.
No, that's a great point. I mean, I have to remind myself too, and my husband does too, is that, "Hey, you've lived this way for, like, 36 years."
Yeah.
So, being here after 7 years is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta give
Yeah,
yourself a pat on the back because that's
yeah.
transformational.
Yeah, and that keeps you, grounded, and it keeps you moving forward to realize that it took you that long to do it. So, you got the rest of your life to do differently, and it takes
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
And tell me, I did wanna ask when I was thinking before about the rest of your family. Have they been impacted to the same way that you were through the experiences? Or, how has it been for them as opposed to you?
I would say yes. What happened to my father and my mother, my older brother for sure. The difference is, yeah, the difference is, d- do you, okay, so yeah, I want to be super respectful too. So I'll do my best. Um, they had a drive when they were in Iran, and because it was that drive that took them out of that country
Yeah,
and have them bring their kids to the US.
yeah,
And same with my father, he went to prison there, and my mother, who was unfortunately raped there by the guards. So when they came here, and here's, and this goes for anyone listening, is that they got comfortable.
right.
And when you get comfortable, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous zone to be in, to be comfortable. And you, yeah, it just ruins your life, because if they had the same drive of leaving there when they got here to keep pursuing what they were doing,
Yeah,
I feel like they would be in a much happier place, more peaceful place. My brother has the same problems, my older brother, and yet he hasn't been able to yet move forward, to be able to find the strength to say, "No, I'm not gonna do this anymore."
yeah,
And it's sad to watch, and, it happens, and we can't, I would love to, help them along the way, and the individual has to want it for themselves, and it does
yeah,
impact their life. Um, Especially my older brother, he's about 3 years older than me, so he remembers quite a lot more than I
yeah,
do, and you see it, and that's the sad thing, and, that's one of the reasons, another reason why we do what we do, is because to not tap into, your potential as a human being is really a life wasted.
yeah,
Because if someone would have, described to me how I would feel just inside, nothing on the outside, nothing material, but just how I feel inside and how I'm able to live my life, I would have done it long time ago, and I wouldn't have believed that it's even possible. So to connect people back to their center, back to their, God-given gifts that we came in here for with,
yeah,
is is just priceless. You can't put a price on that, and it takes work, and given that we live in a system that's, um, unfortunately programs us into, mundane activities and, social programming, it's a hard break for a lot of people, because they do say, "Oh, it's a lot of work. How long is this gonna take?" Or, they like their comfort, they like their binging on Netflix. I don't know how it is where you are, if the
yeah.
same thing is,
Same
or
thing. Yeah,
yeah. So it's, and yet this, to be able to come from this place is is far beyond any comfort, food, Netflix binging, or whatever it is that people do nowadays. You can't compare it. Like, you can't, When someone, for example, does drugs or they smoke cigarettes, they do it because they're chasing a feeling, right?
Yeah.
It, this feeling of content inside. Now, it's only synthetic because it goes away, then you have to do it again.
Yeah.
Now, what if I were to tell you that that feeling of content could be 24/7 and you can get there without needing anything? I think anybody would jump on it. Would you?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's and again, you got to do the work.
Yeah. But don't you think the nature of people is that we tend to want to go to the comfort zone and not challenge ourselves daily, and that maybe for your parents, they went through so much
Mm,
trauma in Iran, that when they
yeah.
got to America, would have been like a great feeling of relief with finally out of that,
Yeah.
and then have just sort of inadvertently fallen into this feeling of um, comfort, but
Mhm.
it's not really comfort at all. We think
No.
it's comfort because everything's the same every day, but it's actually not at all. And we're, like you said, throwing ourselves away a bit by not challenging ourselves on a daily basis.
Yeah. I totally agree with that because when we real I mean, one of the things I realized was it was these very challenges that pushed me for a better life.
Yeah,
Uh, to sit there and be comfortable, which there's been periods in my life where I tried that, and you literally wither away.
yeah,
And sometimes, if we're not paying attention, um, we get in our, you know, 70s, 80s, and we realize this, and then by then it's too late, which is a really
yeah,
sad to be in regret. And I think that's something that's been sold to us to say, "Oh, we do this much in life, you get to a point, and then we're okay. We could relax, we could retire," and that's just a bill of goods that's been sold to us. It's not truth. For the moment you stop working towards anything or just working in simply is the moment you start dying and you start
mm,
withering away. To have an idea of I'm going to get to a place and I'm going to retire and just lay back is you die. And it's these when we accept that life is meant to be hard, it's meant to
yes,
be a struggle, and you're meant to suffer. And yet, those very things push you to become greater and more fulfilled. And yet, it's when we fight against that is when we experience dis-ease or depression, anxiety, because we think there's this point in anything, life, and then even into the business world, there is no such thing as I have arrived. Even,
no,
in business, top performers, they get to a place where they start, their business is booming, and yet you'd never take your foot off the pedal, you keep going. You
yeah,
can't there's no stopping, you have to keep going. The moment you stop and I did that with myself, is that I realized that the moment I stop is the moment I start dying.
mm,
So, it doesn't matter how old you are, 50s, 60s, 80s, you just keep going. That's
yeah.
just I mean, we didn't come here to, uh work a 9 to 5 and have a couple of kids and then kick the can and we're done. I think life is a little bit more about that more than, just those things. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. And you see a lot of people that do follow what you're describing, they retire and often die quite soon afterwards because they
yeah.
no longer have much in the way of a purpose.
Oh, for sure. Yes, I've seen a lot of that around me, close, family members and so forth. I know it happens for sure. And,
Mm.
my husband is, 20 years older than me, so I have no excuses. I have to keep up with him, and I mean, he's an example for me or anyone else to look at him and go, "You can do it till" he's 66 right now,
Yeah.
And we're just, he wakes up at 3 a.m., I get up at 4, I'm a little bit lazier on that side. And we go to the gym together, and then we work a full, day. Our days are about 12, 14-hour days, and
Nice.
yeah, and I look at him and I say, "Okay, I'm not tired. I feel great. We're gonna keep doing this."
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's I feel like it's a lie that's been told over and over and over again because it's the very thing that causes people to get stuck. It's the very thing that causes depression. Um, the whole idea of, I have to reach something to, or become famous, or, all those ridiculous things. It's just
Mm.
they're lies. It's not what life is about. And, having the background that I have, growing up in Iran and coming here, um, has showed me that there's certain things that I can appreciate more than someone who is maybe perhaps born in the States, and that is to, well, first of all, be able to sleep at night and not worry about bombs dropping,
Yeah,
or
that would be scary.
yeah, or having military, kick down your door, and to be able to thrive in anything that you choose to do. And this is, actual freedom and liberty that,
Mm.
unfortunately, a lot of the younger ages people who are born in the States take that for granted, which is really sad.
Yeah. And do you think, like, reflecting on your experiences, how different do you think you would be if you didn't have any of that? Like, if you had just been born, say, in America, just in a middle class environment, how different do you think you'd be as a person?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like I'd be very different, and I'll tell you how. Um, One, I don't believe I would have the same work ethics that I have, the same resilience that I have. Um, I would be much more, maybe lazy is not the right term, but pretty much not wanting to really try for anything, or,
Yeah.
um, just taking things for granted. That's for sure. I think one of the most powerful driving force that we have is, mine was the pain that I had experienced. Um, and it also made me a very, have a strong constitution to be able to deal with hard. So I have no, issues with, if owning your own business. As you can imagine, it's not as easy as people think it is. It's
No,
not as
it's not.
romantic as people make it out to be. I want to own my own business. It takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and it's 24/7. You're never off. If I didn't experience those, then I probably wouldn't be as, driven as I am. And again, I will say some of the traumas would have been better without. It was the hardest things that I had to, heal and work through. Would have perhaps made it easier, I don't know. I will say one thing, and this is a sensitive topic, and yet it happens in the world more than we like to think that it happens, is the, sexual traumas that people experience at a young age.
Yeah.
That, I would say, is one that I could have done without, or
Oh,
anyone
absolutely.
that I can attest that I could really, screw up a person's life
Yeah.
from beginning to, however long they go for, and that was probably the hardest thing, to be able to heal, because the impact that has is unbelievable, of how the choices you make and what you think about yourself. So if anyone, and it happens more often than not, a lot
Yeah.
of, my clients that I work with, unfortunately, have experienced this on some kind of level. And this is one thing I will say for your viewers listening, because when something like this happens to someone, they think, "Oh, there's no going back from this. I can
Mm.
never, be a whole person. Um, and I will tell you that you can.
Mm.
You truly, absolutely can, and you have to do the hard to, face that and clean it and be able to work through it. So my heart goes out to those individuals that have experienced anything like that, and, to be on this side of it, I will say there is a light at the end of that tunnel.
Yeah.
So, take heart, and you can heal something like this, and the other part is the more people talk about this, the less likely as time goes on, some things like this will happen. And that's one of the other
Absolutely.
yeah, it's one of the reasons why I even talk about it because it's something, nobody wants to sit down and talk about it.
No, no, it's not. Yeah, it's something that would prefer to think never happens and
Right.
not need to discuss it.
Yeah, keep it quiet, nobody really wants to talk about it, everybody ignores it, and yet it's driving a lot of the, things that we, um, yeah, that see that goes on in the world, and it needs to stop. If people talk about it more, it'll stop. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously that experience, I can understand why you'd never, that's one you could definitely do without. But I do think that, like in life, we are a product of our experiences.
Mhm.
And obviously, the more challenges we go through, getting through them out the other side and being able to reflect on it, we can be so much richer for that experience.
Yes.
But I think a lot of people in society, we have this idealistic kind of view that everything should be nice and smooth and calm. And we try and strive for that. But in doing so, because I mean, I feel like this, I've been through this myself. You
Mm,
realize that you're not really living when you are just trying to keep everything nice and calm and smooth, that you actually don't do a lot. Because the more you do things, the more you're at risk of something going awry. But in
yes.
doing so, I guess I come to the point to realize that, like you've said before, you're kind of like dying because
Mhm.
you're trying to insulate yourself from challenges of life, which is unrealistic, and it's actually unfulfilling as well too. And you can't avoid things. Like even if you said, "Right, I'm going to stay at home because that's the safest place to be. I'm not going to go out and interact with people." Something could be dropped on your house. You could have an earthquake or something, and you're
Yeah,
gone anyway. You know what I mean? So you
yeah.
just have to embrace life, don't you?
Yeah, you do. I'll share a story with you, which this is quite fascinating. Um, w- because of some of the things that I had experienced, I kind of shut down on the emotional side. I said, I'm never gonna love again. I'm not gonna. And here's what happened. I got to a point, even when I got into a relationship with my husband, that I wasn't able to fully uh, access. Feeling love for him. That was blocked, and I also couldn't access even, say, the opposite of that, which is hate. So I got to a point where I was just totally flatline and just stale, and then, it took a lot of work for me to to get to a place where I got to a place where tell you, Paul, it was like, I wish I could feel pain. Just
Really?
to feel something would
So
have
numb.
been it would have been amazing because I was completely numb, and I didn't realize that I was literally cutting myself off from what you would call, like, your life force,
Yeah.
exactly what you were talking about, and it was and that woke me up. I said, "This is you can't do that," because to mm, and if you can kind of, feel this out, to love someone so much that it hurts and it's painful, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
to have a great deal of pain is to say that you felt a great deal of love.
Yeah.
So it took that experience for me to even see that, and I thought, "You have to take all of life's experiences like this,"
Yeah.
and that's what it is, and how
Yeah.
beautiful. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as much as it's scary, we have to open ourselves up to life to experience it. Whereas I can totally get what happened to you. You're trying to protect yourself, so you weren't feeling emotion because to feel emotion was to make yourself vulnerable, and to make yourself vulnerable put you
Yeah.
at risk of getting hurt further.
Yeah. And, the backlash of that was that you become numb and you can't feel anything even when you do wanna feel it, and that was a horrible it was worse than being in the place of feeling pain, let's put
Mhm.
it that way.
Yeah,
So that was an incredible insight to see that, wow, no, you have to experience these things. This is part of life. This is what makes life, beautiful, and that's what makes you grow. That's your humanity,
yeah.
is to
And I
feel that.
think yeah,
Go
and I
ahead.
think the thing with you is the fact that you did meet James Arthur Ray, and
Mhm.
obviously that connection's been such that he's been able to help you along your
Yeah,
journey. But equally, you've helped him. I mean, he's had his own issues, which we talked a little bit about, so
yeah.
he had a pretty tough time as well. So I'd imagine, the fact that you had that commonality between you, that helped, and that you were able to help one another through what you had been going through or what had been through.
Sure, because when we met was when he had just first gotten out of prison, and he
Yeah.
was $20 million in debt, and I had just gotten out of my divorce. So, when I met him, he was speaking for the first time, and it was at a place where I would never go to, and I decided to go to for whatever reason. And when he spoke on that stage, he was so, raw and real
Yeah.
that it resonated with me, especially given where I was at. And I've never heard, anyone in the industry or outside, speak like that. To be able to, say, "Yeah, no, life is sometimes hands you raw deals, and sometimes it's hard and it's a struggle, and you have to." So it resonated, and what I did was reach out to him to offer to, do work with him somehow. W
Yeah.
the pull was that I liked what he was talking about, and I liked the energy that he carried, and that's what I wanted that in my life.
Yeah.
So I started working for him, and he was in no place to, and also given what had happened to him, mm, I after he spoke, I went and looked him up online to see, because I had no idea. I wasn't in the States when the whole thing occurred.
Yeah.
So when I looked him up online, I thought, "Well, this doesn't match, the person that I met," because, Google's not really our friend.
Yeah.
So he, I I started working with him, and then I realized that what had happened to him was, an injustice, really, of, and a horrible accident occurred, and him being, sentenced to prison for it was, he didn't do it on purpose. So I felt like it was a raw deal, and given, where I grew up and came from, I said, "No, I'm not I'm gonna help you, whatever it takes," and that's what I did. I used to have a, full-time job that I would go, from, I think, from 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m., and for him, I would get up and work from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m., go full
Wow.
day work, come home, from 7 to 11, 12 p.m., AM, work for him, and I did that for 3 years without pay. And we
Incredible.
yeah, and we weren't a couple, so
Yeah.
and, we invested a lot of time together, and we became friends first,
Yeah.
so the friendship grew, and when it became to, we discussed, we there was an attraction there, should we be in a relationship or not? We went back and forth quite a bit because I loved what I did, for work, and he also, being older than me, knows that these things go south, especially with work, when you're working together. But you I th we had a discussion about it, and we talked about it in full, and we decided to, okay, got in the relationship, and then we ended up getting married. But it's been the past 12 years now that we've been doing this, And, that's how I helped him, was to
Mm.
give him the support
Yeah,
and the belief in him that, "No, you got this, you can do this is what you're meant to do, and what happened to you was an accident. It was a raw deal."
yeah,
So, and in turn, he did the same for me. He gave me, the opportunity, with, love and support, which is very important, to be able to heal and, become the person that I was meant to become in the first place without
yeah,
all the baggage, garbage.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, no,
been
I mean, it's an amazing journey that you've both been on, and the fact that you had that between you, you're able to help one another, definitely must have made that journey that much easier to
yeah,
get through because you've had a lot, both of you had a lot to sort of reflect upon and deal with and try and overcome. And I guess for him, I mean, like you said, he's still got the videos online on Google and there, so it's not something he can really draw a line underneath
yeah,
and move on. It continues to be out there to this day,
yeah.
which can't be an easy thing either.
No, and that, in the beginning was, a lot more difficult. Now I think I know we've both gotten to a place where we're just, this is what it is,
Mm,
and we carry the scarlet letter. And the way, the world is going right now, given with everything that's going on,
yeah,
people are beginning to see, uh, what actually happened for what it is, instead
yeah,
of the old that used to. I mean, he gets all kinds of, we both do, hate, you call him the murderer and this and that, and yet it, we're so much focused on what we're doing and providing for people that
yeah,
we just, you can't allow those things to set you back. And here's the other part. I mean, yes, he's got that scarlet letter, and even anybody else, I would, pick the name. I don't, doesn't matter who it is that we think they're at the top of their game. There's always going to be haters.
yeah,
There's always
absolutely.
going to people going to be attacking you.
Yeah.
So, when you start from a restart, we're just kind of like, meh, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. You're right. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, you're always going to have your haters. There's always going to be irrational people out there saying the most ridiculous things.
Yeah. And it's
You
and
can't
it's
change it.
sad. It's like, don't go online to, take jabs at other people. Find something to do. Find something
Yeah,
productive to do.
yeah. Constructive, absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the sad thing is some people don't seem to be able to do that and would instead prefer to be online character assassinating other people.
Yeah.
But it's a
Yeah.
reflection on them, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you
Yeah,
can't take those things to heart. You have to keep moving forward and, what you're doing and what you care about, regardless of, a few people here and there. So,
yeah,
and I think
absolutely.
I
So
st
so, based on your experiences, what would you be your advice to others about how to overcome the challenges and to achieve their goals in life?
ooh, um, based on my experiences, I would say that first, you'd have to become very much so disciplined in what you're gonna do, and pick what you're gonna do, whatever that is. Pick the one thing you're gonna do and stick to it no matter what.
Right.
And the way you do that, you have to be very much so scheduled. You have to, have a strict, I would say, you have to eat well. I mean, that's so important. I can't, emphasize that enough. You have to exercise. You have
Yeah.
to be, and keep that as your daily, schedule. And you have to be super, super disciplined. You can't just be flying off the handles, because you'll never overcome your challenges. And that's how you overcome them, is to take control of your life. And taking control of your life means that you live a well-disciplined life. It's not, you don't throw your schedule up for other people to plan your day for you. You plan it. Um, and whatever your challenges are that you may
Yeah.
feel that is impossible to overcome, I will tell you that nothing is impossible to overcome. You
No,
know, given
might take time, but
yes, and keep in mind that it may take 10 years at least. That
yeah,
yeah, I mean that seriously. I mean, as much as it sounds like it's a long time, but it's like, what else are you gonna do with your time?
yeah,
Give
yeah,
it 10 years. 10 years,
yeah.
and you'll thank yourself for the rest of your life. Just think of it that way.
And do you have to part of that, do you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Because that sounds kinda scary to me.
It's better if you get on the same, system as the sunset and sunrise. It's healthier for you, you'll feel better.
Right,
We start early, super early, because that's our quiet time. It's
yeah,
before, the business starts and we get going. So the reason why we get up early is we have that first, what is it? At least 5 hours that we take care of our own personal things. So, for example, having coffee to get or tea together in the morning. We used to drink coffee, we stopped. Having tea together in the morning together, and we go to the gym together, then we come back, have breakfast together. He does his meditations in the morning. So all that stuff gets done before
yeah,
we come up to the office and start working. And that way, sometimes we're able to leave the office either at 3 or 4 PM. It depends. I'm sure you know how it goes with your business. Sometimes it depends.
yeah.
You just get more done in a day, and I feel better. I used to be a night person. What I thought I was until this happened. And I'm far more creative, think more clearly. It's just nothing at night, nothing good really happens at night.
And so tell me, what time do you go to bed? Because 'Cause I'm just trying to work out how much sleep you get
Oh, okay,
compared to how much I feel I need.
we get at least a good 8 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're in bed probably by, 7 or 8. We do read
Right.
before we go to sleep, so
Yeah.
probably fall asleep about 8 or so. We get at least 8 hours.
Oh, okay, that
Yeah.
sounds better.
Yeah, no, we don't believe in the whole get only 4 hours of sleep and go. That's not healthy. We don't do that.
Yeah. No, I couldn't do it, so that's reassuring to hear that you that we
Yeah.
share that view.
Yeah,
Alright,
no.
well, thank you so much, Bersabeh, for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and for anyone listening, we're gonna do a quick segment in a moment called "Read to Succeed." But for this interview, thank you so much. I think you've been through an incredibly challenging journey, but you're at the point now where you can see it for the richness of what it's given you,
Mm,
and I think I like to believe that we are so much better for those experiences. They're hard experiences, but we are better people for it.
yeah.
And to achieve what you have achieved in that time that you have is quite remarkable. And you need to give yourself a regular pat on the back for how you've changed and how you're contributing and trying to help others to do the similar.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here and listening to my story. So thank you for having me, Paul.
It's been an honor, so thank you.